Greetings, guys. AveSL here, and with my previous video, I was talking about Trump's tweet regarding the ban on immigration, and now major news coming in from CNN. I'd like to watch it. Let's review it, and I'd like your comments and your thoughts after the video. Let's begin.
President Trump is spending the holiday weekend at Mar-a-Lago and on the golf course, and sending a barrage of missives on social media, affecting politics at home and abroad. Beginning yesterday morning, when he declared the airspace above Venezuela, quote, closed in its entirety, amid what he says is a campaign aimed at disrupting drug cartels.
Wow. So remember his post on the 28th, during Thanksgiving, and now a day later, he says to all airlines, pilots, and drug dealers and human traffickers, please consider the airspace above and surrounding Venezuela to be closed in its entirety. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. I'd like to talk more about it. Let's let them speak, but he's just not talking about drug dealers here. He's talking about the airlines, the pilots, and, of course, the human smugglers. So let's continue.
Prompting Venezuela to accuse Trump of an, quote, illegal and unjustified aggression against their country. Meanwhile, at home, he's taking his anti-immigration agenda to a whole new level in the wake of the shooting of 2 National Guard members in Washington, with a suspect an Afghan national.
With the way that everything is going on, all tensions are on the rise, and I get it. There are people, everything that ICE is doing nowadays, it's you are going to be seeing videos out there wherein they are stepping out of line or allegedly stepping out of the line, stopping people from being deported, or rather people they're trying to get people arrested and perhaps deported. And then we see the American people on the other side trying to stop them. So it's kind of crazy the way that you look at things, because if you think about it, they're just doing their job, regardless of whether or not you agree to it. And in my opinion, and for the record, I do not agree with people just getting shipped back without due process. But then again, it came to a point wherein people such as this person, right? It's causing tensions, and it's causing the administration more ammo and more reasoning to do the stuff that they're doing. I feel sorry for the people that are affected. The people that, even though they got into America unconventionally, and they're just trying to make ends meet, trying to get the slice of the pie, the great American dream. This is what it has gone to. This is what we're looking forward into. And again, the people on the side that are trying to stop ICE is not helping. Let's continue.
Trump now threatening a host of new measures, halting all asylum decisions, saying he would pause migration from, quote, third world countries, while warning that green card holders from certain countries would have their papers reviewed. And his rhetoric has gotten even coarser. There's a lot to
So can you imagine that? I mean, you're just working, you got your papers, and then all of a sudden, mind you, and as you're imagine you're a worker there, and you've got your paperwork, everything's copacetic, and you're just trying to get that grind, work, earn money for your family, back to whatever country you came from, and then all of a sudden, boom, your papers. So it's kind of crazy. It adds to the stress. It adds to the fact that you are not in your home country. You're just going there just to work, or maybe perhaps trying to get residency. But yeah, let's continue.
Packed this morning, and I have an excellent panel to break this all down with. Tia Mitchell with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, CNN's Stephen Collinson, and USA Today's Susan Page. Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy Thanksgiving belatedly. Nice to see you all here. I want to start with what's happening with Venezuela, because I think that a lot of Americans don't realize what's happening down there. We're seeing the biggest military buildup down there in the Caribbean in decades. And it's not entirely clear what the next steps are going to be. There's been more than 80 people killed in these more than 20 boat strikes that have occurred. The administration says it is about disrupting these cartels, but the buildup is much broader than suggesting a simple effort to try to get rid of cartels. What is this? Is this a effort to try to topple the Maduro government there? Is this a possible war that they're preparing for, or is it saber rattling?
So that's the thing. I'll let them speak, but I'd like to get a little bit of my thoughts in here, and then I'll get back to it. For me, it because of what's happening, whatever it is that they're trying to do, whatever their goal is, there are going to be collaterals. I'd like to just say it that way. There is going to be collateral damage. There's no way of avoiding it. Try as much as they can. It's inevitable.
I think one of the reasons why we don't know the answers to that is because the administration hasn't really explained it very well. To your point, it does look like a psyops operation to try and topple Maduro, the president of Venezuela, or to get the generals around him to do it for the United States. The administration's argument that this is all about drugs trafficking is somewhat curious, because if that was the aim, there might be other places in Latin America where you would start it. The polls, for example, show massive, overwhelming opposition among Americans to a war in Venezuela. A lot of people think it would be incompatible with the president's, foundational belief of no more foreign wars. But this is a very MAGA thing, I think. There's clearly an attempt by the administration to project American power through the Western Hemisphere. That's not new historically, but they're backing all of these populist right-wing leaders through Brazil, Argentina. The president intervened in the election today in Honduras, saying he was going to pardon the former president of Honduras, who was found guilty in the US of drugs trafficking. So that undercuts one of the big rationales. So it's very unclear, I think, exactly what the strategic goal is of the administration.
And speaking of the poll,
So, as what he has mentioned, it could be possibly a psyop. But then again, that's the thing. This is what I always like for in the future, for the people that are viewing. I know that I don't have viewers right now, but if people are going to get to see this, whether you're American, you're Asian, or whatever country you're from, what I'd like you to keep in mind, guys, is that whenever there are discussions like this, even whatever you think of, if this is paid, if you think that this is deliberately trying to undermine whatever President Trump is doing, or if you feel that they are right. So here's the thing. We have, as far as optics go, as far as the things that we know, we only know what we know in a sense of what we see in the news in America. Or right now, what I know, as far as everything that I'm watching, it's only via CNN, okay? There are other news outlets out there. There are news outlets in Venezuela. There are also people in Venezuela that have their thoughts on this. And there are also people in Venezuela that knows more. And I can confidently say that. I can even bet my left gang on it, that there are a lot of people in Venezuela that knows more than the people that are covering the news right now and have better input. But our goal here is to just watch and discuss, and we shall continue.
as you mentioned, it just the CBS News poll just out recently about whether Americans would favor military action in Venezuela, and 70% would oppose. I mean, to Stephen's point, typically when you see a military campaign, there is a build-up, there's a messaging strategy. We saw this with George W. Bush in the Iraq War. There's really been none of that with the Trump administration right now.
In fact, an even higher percentage in that poll said the president needs to explain what's going on there. 3/4 of Americans said that. 2/3 of Republicans said they needed to hear more explanation from Trump before moving ahead. So clearly this would be, I think, politically here, a risky maneuver and one hard to square with the pardon he's promised now to a Honduran president who has undergone due process and been convicted, as opposed to the people, the 80-plus people who've been killed at sea, who have not gone through due process before being killed by American forces.
And
I agree. See, it's very tricky, whatever President Trump's goal is in trying to squash. I'm sorry, why am I using my fingers? I feel like Dr. Evil. But whether his goal of trying to stop illegal substances going to the U.S., it doesn't look good. A military campaign is very scary for all people that are watching right now. I mean, if you're like the typical American and if you're like the typical MAGA, or I don't even know, okay? I'm just giving an example. If like you're a MAGA person and you think that yeah, this is good. This is actually going to stop substances or legal substances going to our country or sweeping our country right now. It may not, because there are other countries out there that are actually pumping illegal substances in America. And the way that this looks right now, it's crazy. But then again, at the same time, as like a common viewer with just a little bit of with a couple brain cells here and there, I'm just watching. We don't really know the intricacies of how this thing would work or how they can do a successful campaign in stopping illegal substances to America. And of course, the other factor here, or the other theory, is that the main or one of the reasons why they're doing this is to try to oust the current leader of Venezuela.
Are these questions that are building on the Hill, too, about the campaign that's going on there? Yesterday, we saw the leaders of the House and Senate Armed Services Committee come out and demand answers about a military strike that occurred, a boat strike that occurred in early September, in which Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, apparently ordered everyone who was on that vessel to be killed. There's some concern about the way that it was conducted that could have violated the rules of armed conflict.
Yeah.
It just shows you you don't really see this kind of bipartisan calls for information, investigation when it's Republicans leading these committees asking the Trump administration for details.
It's bipartisan. It's both the House and the Senate. And I think, we don't have a lot of information even about the 80 people who were killed. But the little bit that has been reported as media has been digging is that they were relatively low level on, the hierarchy of drug trafficking. They were probably just regular people who were hired to do the transporting, not necessarily the masterminds behind the operation. So again, the question is, if you're just killing the mules, so to speak, does that really affect the operation? Because at the end of the day, probably the cartel saw them as dispensable as well. So I just think there is so much problematic about these killings, about the buildup, about what the plan is for Venezuela. And I think most Americans, not just, Trump, as we've talked about, his whole campaign was centered around ending foreign wars, focusing on domestic issues. But even beyond that, I think a lot of people in America are just like, why Venezuela? Why now? Why in this way? It just doesn't, there's just not enough evidence or information.
Okay, to comment on that, again, going back to what I mentioned earlier, we are just viewers here. Whether you're whatever country you're from, or even if you are in America, even if you're actually part of the higher echelon, even if you are what I'd like to consider the top 1%, my opinion is that there are still a lot of things that we don't know, even if you're on that class group. Because at the end of the day, they do this, and there is planning to this. And I feel sorry for the people that lost their lives, but they know what they're getting themselves into. That is for certain. Maybe some of them don't, which is unlikely, but they chose that path. There is always risk of for every action you take. Whether you're just me uploading a video on YouTube and doing a commentary, or if you're going to smuggle illegal substances to a certain country. So, and also as far as the information that is being or being held, or maybe not being disclosed to everyone, especially Americans, of course there is such a thing as, or there is a sense of transparency that needs not be met for the fact that it can actually jeopardize the operation. That's my opinion, at least. Because if you think about it, if a lot of people know about what's going on, then I don't think that their plan, whatever it is that they're cooking up, would be successful. People unfortunately went to the other server, and 80 people went to a different server. They're now gone from this universe, and they have moved to a different server. It's sad because, of course, if you think about it, as human as possible, or being just empathetic about it, these people most likely have families. Okay, As far as risk goes, yes, you can say that maybe some people are just trying to build their career on this, trying to get to the top. Maybe they're thinking that they can be a kingpin one day, but I'm pretty sure that some of these folks are just trying to also earn money for their family. So it's sad, but at the same time, there is always a risk for every action that you take. And their actions are actually very risky. And if we're going to go back to what she said, not enough evidence, there's not enough information. I thought that Trump is trying to end wars, trying to prevent conflicts. Wars can be ended diplomatically, but I believe that sometimes it's best to show that you have the bigger guns. And it's sad because a lot of people are going to be affected. You might think that, oh, it's just the people that are doing bad things. No, it's going to affect our economy. It's going to affect the way of their life, the Venezuelans, and it's sad. And here we are. I'm very blessed. Even though whatever I'm going through in life right now, I'm very blessed that I can just sit right now in my home, watch this video, and comment on what I think about the topic.
Get back to what you referenced earlier here, Stephen, about this pardon that Trump gave to the former Honduran president, Juan Orlando Hernandez, because what the Trump administration is saying is that this Venezuela campaign is about to disrupt these drug cartels. They say they campaign on it. This is what this is about. Well, Hernandez was given an $8 million fine by a U.S. judge just last year and sentenced for 45 years in prison for his role in drug trafficking. This is how the New York Times put it. So the two posts displayed a remarkable dissonance in the president's strategy as he moved to escalate a military campaign against drug trafficking while ordering the release of a man prosecutors said had taken, quote, cocaine-fueled bribes from cartels. It goes on to say prosecutors said that Mr. Hernandez for years allowed bricks of cocaine from Venezuela to flow through Honduras en route to the United States. Trump said in his pardon about why he did it, he said in Truth Social, he said, many people said that he was treated very harshly and unfairly.
Yeah, and that seems to be the rationale that he was a former president who was forced to face justice. We've seen this before, in fact, in Brazil.
So on that one, you might think that, hey, it's crazy. Maybe it is. But the way that I see it, of course, why are they going to say the original thing? You know, why would President Trump tell you the main reason why they are releasing the person? They're not just going to tell you, hey, the reason why we're doing this is because we'd like someone inside, go back to this country and feel that everything is fine and dandy, and then meanwhile he's feeding us intel about whatever is going on, or he's actually going to provide us valuable intel that we can use on other foreign enemies and terrorists. So yeah, that's what I think about that.
Brazil.
They wouldn't just release a person because of this person has been suffering for far too long. I am confident that that's not how governments work. There's always something behind that. There's always an agenda behind that. And we'll find out in the next coming days, months, or years.
With the president looking after his political allies, clearly it's completely incompatible with the idea of a drugs war. But at the same time, I think this is a president and an administration that's increasingly seeking to use its power for its own purposes while it can, and perhaps isn't as much worried about polls and the Constitution and power as perhaps it should be.
Yeah, so the main question there is, what he said is for power, but the main question there is what or how are they going to use that power? Like what I've said earlier, it could be that they've released that person to gain, of course, favor, but what are they going to do with that favor?
Given the fact that a lot of Republicans are worried about how this all plays out in the midterms.
The fact that the Republican chairs of the House and Senate Armed Services Committee are willing to announce that they're going to investigate this, demand some answers from the Trump administration, strikes me as one sign of the erosion we're beginning to see with President Trump standing, even with his own party. We've been waiting for years for this to happen. It's been predicted again and again. But his approval rating is down to a record second-term low. And Republicans are increasingly nervous about what's going to happen in the midterms to them in next year's election.
In the meantime, he's announced all these immigration.
So guys, as far as what I watch, basically it sums up to the potential war possibly with Venezuela, or as tensions escalate, hopefully it just stays as just a simple war against drugs. But you can watch the rest of the video. I'll link it into the description. I'd like your thoughts, comments, and I'm fairly new. I'm trying to work myself through this commentary thing. I might switch up if need be. But thank you guys for watching. Like, share, and subscribe.